There we go.
Remove all data from my account.
So, hey everybody, welcome to the July MacMadmin Monthly. Thanks for everyone showing up in person. Thanks to anyone on the Hangout, and we have a special guest this month, Justin Elliott. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right, not too bad.
So, on some shortish notice, I asked Justin to join us today. We've been talking about a bunch of things. I figured we were going to talk a little bit about the Penn State conference, which Justin is involved with, obviously. So I figured it'd be great to have him here and have someone talking a little bit about the Penn State conference while we're discussing it. So who went besides me? I know Victor was there. Anybody else? All right. So I know I mention this every month and we do a roundup of events, but you know, it's great to see people at meetups like this. But at some point, it's nice to go to a bigger event like Penn State or MacTech or MacSysAdmin, or you know, there are more and more popping up, and it's nice to get out and broaden your base a bit and put faces to names. And when you see someone on Slack, you're like, oh yeah, I met them. I mean, Justin, you probably have stories like this, but I know from running MacTech conference, I still have people telling me like, oh man, I sat down, I had lunch with Daniel Jalkut, and now I follow him on Twitter, and blah, blah, blah. Alan Hancock, who was a sponsor at Penn State this year, Watchman partially got started because he met someone at MacTech conference who helped him develop the original control panel and get that started up. So he had the idea, he met a developer there. So, you know, all these events are really fantastic ways to start broadening your base of people, and I definitely say it all the time, and I still believe that, you know, the Apple and Mac community is like the best community in the world. You know, you hear things happening at other conferences, RubyConf, and, oh my God, someone did this presentation and it was really sexist or something. It's like, it's never been an issue. Like, I think we all have codes of conduct for our conferences. Mm-hmm. I've fortunately never had to like kick someone out or take action on that, because I think the community in general is really respectful, and even something like this, I know you know, the community is generally pretty good about sharing ideas and sharing things, even with people who might be considered competitors. And like, I don't think people realize, like, we talk all the time. Like, I talk to Justin and Rusty, like, I run a conference, they run a conference. I talk to Tico from MacSysAdmin. Like, we're always sort of like comparing notes and trying to figure out how we can serve the community, and like that's all sort of happening in the background, which is really cool. I had a conversation with Matt X the other day about next year's Mac DevOps. So yeah, it's kind of fun that like no one, you know, feels like, oh, you're withholding things, and like it's a great community. So and I think this recent Penn State really exemplified that. It was really a great conference. How do you feel coming off of the end of now that you have a week or two distance and you can kind of look back on it?
Yeah, sure. It's always relieving the week after when we realize, oh, we have to go back to our normal jobs of meetings, making sure our labs are up and running. And Matt and Rusty do a great job of that. So it's we now have a break until September so we can breathe and do some debriefing, but we're collecting feedback at this point for sessions and general conference feedback, that is. So, you know, we're going over those, looking that over, and doing a debrief will be good for us later. I see I'm watching the chat in Slack as well, speaking of feedback, so that'll be good to see that there.
A little bit of an echo.
Yeah, there might be.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've got my headphones on this side, so maybe it's that.
Just muted my laptop. I don't know if that'll be any better. We're not hearing it on this side.
Okay,
how do you personally feel about it? How do you personally feel about it from
the community side?
Well, before you see feedback.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well, like do the Tim Cook thing and say this was the best Penn State conference ever. You know.
Well, no, actually, what's been fun is to hear we have colorful feedback now and then during the conference. Thanks, the audio is better. But I think you mentioned this too, Ed, and it's very true. When you're running a conference, you really don't have time to sit in the session. You want to, because there's so many great topics and presenters like yourself. But constantly I'll have somebody come up to me and they know who we are, and they'll say, "Hey, can I talk to you outside really quick?" And I'm like, "I want to see this session." But I don't say that because I'm helping to run the conference. So of course I step out and say, "Yeah, what's up?" And they said, "Yeah, the snacks. Yeah, there's. Can you have more M&Ms put out?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." So and then they make good points occasionally. Can you have the speaker do this or that? And I'm like, "Well, sure. We give guidelines, but we want this to be fluid and organic as well." So most of the time, people are pretty laid back, and it's nice to hear the compliments too, because there's the thought that people are most likely to complain about something versus compliment. But we have a really good balance there. And we learn from the lessons every year, but it's also great, going out with folks and having a beer, and then we hear some more feedback from that. And it's great. We take the positive and we take the things where we can grow and fix. But nobody's perfect, and all of us on the crew, of course, we've all attended conferences and we saw things that we liked. We said, "Oh wow, Mac IT did a really great job with this. Mac Tech has also had some great things too." And so, we're building on ideas that we came up with, and then we're like, "Oh, this didn't work so well. Let's change that and tweak that a little bit." So, but I agree with on the community part too. It really has never been a competition thing. In fact, we talked with Paul Kent and others in the past about other conferences, and we all want to make sure we kind of work together. We're not out to compete with anybody. We pay expenses just like anyone else for food, the facilities. So we have our expenses too. So somebody actually asked me, "Do you get the Penn State or the conference center where we have the conference for free?" And we said, "No way, we pay for that too." So we try to keep it as low as we can, but we also want to give back to the community, and that's why we like and prefer sessions that we can record and then make available on our YouTube channel, which are actually coming out very soon now. So we save on travel costs and training for us. We and my crew, we get to learn a lot from local expert speakers, and they themselves are also getting opportunities to speak, and it's we love the community, and we want to help out in any way that we can.
Awesome. So something I meant to ask you a little bit about during the conference, and I forgot. And like you say, you get busy, and I get busy. So for those of you who don't know, Justin wrote a program they call MCP for the conference, and helps run the conference. And I remember a few years ago, it was pretty much just doing timing. And it seems like you've added more and more features over the years. As a speaker, it's really nice. You get this display in the back of the room, and it's showing you how much time you have left. And at about 10 minutes left, it turns sort of orange. Right? The colors change as you get closer and closer to running out of time.
Yep.
So it's a really nice visual indicator, and it seems like you've upgraded it all the way through this year, where it's displaying the schedule and playing some music, and a few minutes before the session starts, it flips over to display the session that's going to be in that room, links to the feedback. I remember, a few years ago you told me you had written that in Real Basic.
Right. Yep.
Is that still the case, or have you done a rewrite? Or?
No, actually, it's still written in the same thing, and the same IDE was renamed into something that doesn't sound so 10 print hello, 20 go to 10.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, including me, somebody told me about Real Basic, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. I did that on the Commodore. I like the Commodore. I did assembly language on the Commodore, but I don't want BASIC. And he said, no. Ignore that. It's a bad title, and they're working on changing it. And sure enough, they did. So the new title of it is called Xojo. It's XOJO, but it's fully compiled, object-oriented, polymorphism, shared properties, threading, you name it. It does a lot of nice things. So
access to Cocoa.
Well, exactly. Yes, it has access to Cocoa APIs. It can do declares, what they call declares, and it can compile for iOS as well as Windows and Linux. And it does a pretty good job. My full-time job, and don't shoot me for this, I'm an IT manager mostly, but I get to develop and have some fun on the side, programming smaller tools and things for the conference. So I like wearing both hats there. But Real Basic was the old name, and then it changed into Real Studio, and then it was renamed into Xojo, Xojo. So it's a great IDE. Not many people know about it, but I've enjoyed working at it. It's definitely a rapid application development tool. So if that helps anybody out there.
Yeah, no, I used Real Basic, way back in the day. And, yeah, like you said, it's not 10 print this, 20 go to 10.
Right.
It has, God, getting a little echo on this side.
It's really hard to talk with echo.
It's hard to talk with an echo.
With your own voice, like 2 seconds later, you're like,
Messes with your brain.
We will, we'll get into the psychology of that one day. We've got to turn this down over. But it is a nice language. The thing that I think I used it for was that it was also, and it probably still is, cross-platform with Windows. So I could continue to develop on my Mac and then roll things out to Windows users, which was great because at the time I was supporting a ton of those people, and it had at the time like a bunch of libraries that you could use to tap into key-based files and SQL libraries. So it was actually really functional.
Yeah.
So, again, I saw it this year, and I saw how much functionality had expanded. So I wasn't sure if you had gone back to the drawing board with it, or it's just been a progressive expansion over time.
Right, progression definitely over time. Did you hear the voiceover before the session started?
Yes.
Okay.
So it used the built-in synthesis to make an announcement. Hey, turn off your cell phone. Things like that. As the session started. So.
Sound like Steve Jobs, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And actually, I wanted to ask that. In different rooms, I heard different voices. So
right.
Did you use the voice random?
Yep, it's randomly playing all of them. And in fact, it's my favorite is Veena. I think that's the one. It's the Indian woman's name. His voice, her voice is awesome. But they're all pretty good. The British guy is pretty good. He sounds a little too serious at times, but they're all good. So it's the additional voices you can download through Assistive Technologies in OS 10.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
So, before I move on, did anyone have any questions about Penn State conference or anything for Justin on the conference front? No? Awesome. We loved it. I had a great time this year, and I'm anxious to see some of the feedback we get.
I got a question. Do the people from AppWeb attend these kind of conventions?
Yeah, they did attend Penn State.
It's not a reliable way to get an audience with them if you're looking for someone in particular, but it still works.
Yep, we had many. All I can say is we had many people from major companies attending our conference. We're not allowed to call out certain companies at times.
So I'm going to try to mute this and see if that helps while I'm speaking. Hey, look at that, magic. So I happened to take a quick side trip to Justin's house when I was out at Penn State, and he invited me over to show off some of his retro arcade cabinets that he's built himself, which were really amazing. So just for everyone's information, I'd love to hear a little bit about, tell us about the technology you're using in there and how you built them and what goes into that.
Sure. Stop me at any time because I'll keep going on and on about this. So a buddy of mine, Dave Test, he's actually on the conference committee. He and we were out at Musée Mécanique in San Francisco. It was on Pier 39, I believe. And I saw the Miss Pac-Man cocktail table, and I said, oh man, I really want one of those. But they're expensive. And they're available, and you can get old ROM boards, but they're all rusty and broken, and sometimes they just don't work. I did actually buy some ROM boards on eBay. Sorry, go ahead. Did somebody say?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. That might have been me, I hear. So you can get ROM boards, and so you're legal, but there are sites like archive.org and others that are making a lot of the ROMs available for the games that run in MAME and multiple arcade machine emulator, I believe. And that has been a very strong open source project going on for quite a while now. Well, that runs and emulates various CPUs, and the purists out there would say, well, you should really only run it on an arcade board, but MAME actually runs a lot of games very reliably. So to stay legal, I actually did purchase ROM boards off of eBay from MacMadmin, Moon Patrol, and Missile Command, because you know it's a gray area sometimes to say, well, you really shouldn't buy that. But I've paid and bought for Miss Pac-Man, I think probably with Miss Commodore 64 plus the NES plus the 26, plus, you know, all of those different. I paid for it many times, but those are all different variations, obviously. But anyway, so I went home and I said, well, I'm going to build one of these cocktail tables. And I was going to make it a monstrosity that it could have every button known to man. It has a dial and a top-fire joystick, and, I'll throw a trackball on the side. It'll make the monitor flip up in case one plays on the side. And I got done with it. It took me about 2 to 3 months. This is before I had kids. And, of course, right, yeah, everybody says, oh, he doesn't have kids. That's how he can do this. That's pretty much true. It took me 2 to 3 months. And I finished it, and it worked with all of those things, but it was ugly. Ugly in the sense of it had too many buttons on it. It works, but it was trying to do too much at one time. And then what was funny is, as soon as I finished it, my wife said, hey, this looks great, but I'd like the miniature arcade cabinets instead. And I said, you're killing me. And I said, okay. So I found plans from this on the web, of course. Via Google, and there was a site called Jack O'Bud, I think. And he and others mapped out the cabinet dimensions, and I just shrunk them down because I like miniature cabinets. And started building from there. Plywood, T-molding, straight LCD, and I put in some speakers. Got an amp, got some nice speakers in there after I learned that speakers really do make a difference. And then I got some cheap PCs that Penn State was selling from surplus. I'm thinking my head. I'm looking. But so they're like cheap optiplexes, Intel Core 2 Duos, really low end, but I get them cheap and monitors that are used. And built some PCs, run Linux Mint 16 on them, have MAME run, and I was running my own front end on it that I developed with Zojo, and it worked great. But then I found another one out there that was a lot better. It's called Attract Mode, and there's another one called Hyperspin, Hyperpin for pinball games. But Attract Mode was one that was very lightweight. Learned a lot of lessons from other emulator front ends, and it's fantastic. It's easy, it's lightweight, and it runs well on Linux at this point. So that's the one you played with, or used on the Moon Patrol cabinet. It was also on the Missile Command cabinet, but the cocktail table is still running my UI, but I had to move the cocktail table over the other day to make room for a new pinball table that I just picked up this weekend. So yeah, the room is full. So I've got a 3 pinball tables, Miss Pac-Man miniature cabinet, Missile Command, cocktail table, a Moon Patrol, and a table as well. And the thing on the Moon Patrol cabinet, though, somebody had made stencil arts. Or rather, they vectorized the art on the side of Moon Patrol, and I took that into GIMP, separated the layers, printed it out, sized it down so it would fit on the size of a cabinet that I wanted. Then got Frisket film from Learned a Guy on YouTube, and did all the layers, and that was a lot of work, and the result turned out really well. But I had a lot of help from my wife, who majored in arts and printmaking in college, so that helped a lot too. So, and she's also a programmer, so we're pretty geeky. We've got woodworking, not metallurgy, but working with metals, computers, obviously. Programming, we got to have some fun with them. So,
Very cool.
I finished the Missile Command cabinet 2 weeks before my wife delivered our son. She's like, you better finish that. I said, okay, you got it. So I finished that one up. I was up till midnight, many nights, and got it done. So it's been fun.
Okay, awesome. I wasn't sure what you were running inside the machines. I knew they were PC-based. I wasn't sure if you did something as bare bones as like a Raspberry Pi or something like that, but you said you got regular old PCs.
Right. Yeah. Well, I lied. I didn't lie, but 2 of them. Wow, I've got a lot of cabinets. So the Miss Pac-Man cabinet actually is running a 16-1 board game, which you can get for like $60 from Holland Computers, or if you Google for 16-1 JAMA board, you'll find it. It's really cheap, and they have kits that include the power supply buttons, and you connect the monitor or a VGA, and you get an audio out, and you're good to go. It's actually pretty easy to set up. The cabinet is where the artwork can make a difference and make it a little prettier. But the other ones are PCs. And the Raspberry Pi, though, is what Dave Test has been testing for using RetroPie, which has a really nice front end. So, yeah, for $35, you mount it inside of the cabinet, you're good to go. So I may end up moving to RetroPie eventually. What's nice is a track mode, the UI that I use already on Linux, on the PC that is, or also has a distribution that runs on the Raspberry Pi, which is quite nice. So the barrier is really low for getting on doing it cheap. Raspberry Pi 3 definitely has enough horsepower for Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man, things like that. You know, the 8-bit games, probably some 16-bit games, but the higher-end fighting games like Mortal Kombat or NBA Jam, I haven't tested yet. But some of those have pretty high CPU requirements for GPU and all that. But the 3 is really fast now, so it might be able to do some of those as well. I'm sure some people out there have already tried it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, you know, especially emulating these older arcade games. In general, you don't need something super powerful, super fast, you know. It's nice that the requirements are pretty low.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad, you know, I got you to speak about that a little bit because for people who are really deep into the Mac ecosystem and don't branch out, like this is a great like starter project. Like, hey, I'm gonna get this little PC and run Linux on it, and I want to play some games, and it sort of gives you this goal to drive towards. And you probably have to learn a little bit of the command line and you know some Linux utilities, and of course eventually you might end up, you know, wanting to use Amazon Web Services or Google Compute Engine or something like that, where you get to spin up a shell somewhere, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, this looks familiar. You know, I know this from my game system.
Right.
So yeah, these projects are really nice ways just to sort of branch out. Have you ever seen OpenEMU on the Mac?
Yes, I have it. It looks really nice.
It is really nice. The difference with OpenEMU is that it has a bunch of sort of plug-in engines. So it'll do MAME, it'll do Stella for Atari 2600, it'll do NES, it'll do a ton of different things all in this one interface. So for you Mac people who maybe aren't building a cabinet or anything, you know, you can just run it right on your Mac. It pairs and recognizes PlayStation DualShock 3 and DualShock 4 controllers. So
nice.
Yeah, it's actually really well thought out. So.
What's funny is when I was first starting building the cocktail table, I had a Mac Mini, and I actually bought it new from cabinet. And somebody said, "That's overkill, right?" I said, "No, I want it to be a Mac." Because I'm such a Mac diehard at the time, still am. But then I realized, no, it is overkill. Raspberry Pi and others are definitely the way to go for lightweight gaming like that. And it was funny to see pictures of the cabinet with this huge space inside, and there's a little tiny Mac Mini sitting in the bottom. I thought, yeah, that's probably overkill. But I mean, a Raspberry Pi would be even smaller. So, but yeah, it's great what you're doing.
Nice. All right. Questions on any of that?
It's cool though.
It is very cool. It is very cool. And like I said, it's a nice way to get your feet wet with the different operating systems and different hardware and figure this stuff out. Yeah, I want to be respectful of your time, Justin. So thank you so much for joining us today. You're welcome to hang out, but I don't want to keep you longer than I don't want to monopolize your time.
That's okay. That's okay. I appreciate the invite. This was fun.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Other business questions? What are you struggling with? What's going on in the Mac community that I don't know about or that you're struggling with?
Not much struggle at the moment, really. And even if there was struggle, it wasn't definitely not Mac related.
Well, that's good. I'm trying to think, what was any big news? Anyone testing Sierra and iOS 10? I know it came out, I think, the day before our meeting last month, and it was like we had a day of experience.
Yeah.
With it.
iOS 10 for sure, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it on my iPhone and on the iPad Pro just fine. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I'm kind of leery in putting it on my Mac. On my
How is it
MacBook
on
Air.
your phone?
It's fine. It's fine. It's
I
not.
have it on a phone, but it's not my main phone.
Yeah, I got it on my main phone. Yeah,
Okay. How's that been working out?
it's been working out fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Been working out fine.
I would say so far there's no deal breakers. Like
Yeah.
nothing has prevented me from doing anything I normally would do. There's the usual memory leaks where, if you're doing something, you switch between multiple apps for long enough and eventually it'll black screen, you get the cogwheel.
The only thing I noticed is like, say
that's
for instance, you turn on the flashlight you're using, you want to turn it off, you want to turn off the Wi-Fi, you got to keep on hitting it to turn off. That's what. Besides that,
Interface weirdness.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
That's beta 1.
No.
Beta 2 now.
Yeah.
Kind of to be expected.
Things not responsive where you touch the screen and it feels frozen.
yeah.
But only for a couple seconds at a time. Really, like I said, nothing serious.
Major.
My banking app works fine.
That's good.
Slack,
At first, I thought it was
email,
draining
all
my
that
battery, and I'm like, wait a minute, I just finished charging this. Why am I all the way down? But it's been fine.
But did that get fixed with beta 2? Was that a problem in beta 1 that got fixed?
That's
I didn't have
interesting
battery
because
issues.
when I downloaded, I think it was beta 1 that I downloaded because they said beta 1. I didn't see no beta 2 yet.
At no point on iOS 10 have I had battery issues.
No?
Personally.
As
I've
you
been
say,
fine.
plugged into an external battery.
Yeah, only so that I can make it home and be able to play all the games and read all the stuff that I want to read without running it completely dead.
Yeah. I don't know. I generally enjoy pretty good battery life on my iOS devices. I don't want to jinx them.
Yeah.
Cool. Do we have anything on our side that was interesting that we noticed over the last month? Like, oh, hey. I don't know. I've still been catching up on some of the WWDC videos. I know we watched the logging and tracing one, and there's like, oh my gosh, a lot of stuff is going to be changing.
Oh, I got a question.
10, 12.
I noticed they had the betas for the tablets and for the phone, but I didn't notice anything for the watch.
They did release a new watchOS, but I think you can only update it from an iOS 10 device, a phone specifically, right? You can't pair a watch with an iPad, so.
Yeah, okay, so I need to do that.
I'm not a watch owner, but that's what I've read that you can.
Because when you go to beta.apple.com, once you download that file, it gives you an option.
Oh,
do you want to
beta.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. You can go to the developer site and then definitely update to watchOS. And again, not a watch user, but anyone that I've seen install watchOS 3, they're saying, "Oh my gosh, like the speed of launching things makes it totally worth it." So that's good. That's very good news. Very good news. And I know they have a beta for tvOS. I haven't tried it or seen it, or I think I just fired up my Apple TV, the new Apple TV again for the first time the other day. I was like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty nice. I wish I used it for something.
A lot of it.
They can be nice. I'm not 100% sure of the business use, but for home, it seemed pretty nice.
I think it just answers a specific use case. Until the most recent version, the most commonly used feature of my Apple TV was AirPlay for my Mac or my phone.
Definitely.
And I think that was probably its initial purpose, was to be the bridge. Like, how do I show this picture to everybody in the room all at once without passing my phone around?
Right. Oh, definitely. That's probably the best use case for it. But I don't know. I guess it's been out long enough that if having an SDK for it was going to make a real difference. Like, I haven't heard anyone say, like, oh, there's this app for the Apple TV.
Yeah.
You have to get it. You have to see it. And then, of course, there's all the petty infighting between, like Amazon has their video app for it because Apple's going to take 30%. But I have to admit, that is like, even the Kindle app for iPad and iOS is really frustrating. It's like, oh, you want to buy this thing? Go to the website and go do it.
Yeah, it's funny because you're still going in the browser on the same iOS.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, but I get that Apple wants to get their cut, but it definitely makes for a poor end-user experience, I feel like.
I also feel like a lot of people have newer devices that have a lot of these other features baked in already. So, I have an Apple TV that I've had forever since before I had a smart TV. And I bought a TV, and you can't choose to buy a TV without the smart guts inside of it anymore. So I'm stuck with a smart TV that has the same things: Netflix, Hulu, Amazon.
Oh, you got a new one?
Yeah, and then I have an Xbox One, which has all the same stuff on it also. So
I use my PlayStation as much as a media playing device as anything else. So those are definitely available.
Right. I think my TV, my PlayStation, my TiVo, and I guess my Chromecast.
Ooh, another TV.
Could all do like
that.
Netflix and HBO Go, and
Right. But
it's unfortunate the best Netflix app is the one on the PlayStation. The one on the TiVo works, but it's really slow.
Yeah, the TiVo's I'm glad you like TiVo. I like TiVo.
But the interface is nicer because I have the universal remote that works everywhere. And if I want to use the PlayStation, it's like, all right, let me get the controller out.
I think one of the latest news that you probably was talking about is that Apple was thinking about buying Tidal from Jay-Z because of the music thing.
I think someone mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting.
Sounds
but
plausible. But
I guess the difference.
I don't know.
Just bringing back to TV quickly before we get off that topic was like that. I think the interesting thing there is like I don't know what the PlayStation 4 development kit is. I don't know what the Xbox development kit is, but I have Xcode, right? Any of us in this room could get an Apple TV, hook it up, and develop for it and write something for it, or our iOS application. And we just haven't seen it. I don't think we've seen it get used that way. So it feels like there's something missing. I don't know what that is, but that's what I feel the big difference is. It's like anyone can go get this 99 or whatever it is. The newer ones even at $129
something like that,
or something like that. $1 device and Xcode, write something for it. But we just haven't seen like. I know for a long time people were using Mac Minis as signage, behind a flat screen, and it feels like the TV, the newer Apple TV, would be even a better device for that. And I haven't even really heard anyone say like, "Oh yeah, using Apple TVs." Like you can even use them with MDM, right? You can push them profiles.
But the thing is, a Raspberry Pi makes way more sense.
Yeah, $25, right? Or
not just that, but the Apple TV doesn't have a web view.
Right? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so that's the killer thing because I have like dashboards that are very well built out and something. I just need a browser.
Did what do I want to say? Did Panic bring their status board app to Apple TV, or did that prevent them because they don't have a web view? That was one of the components of their status board display. It was like you could do this, you could do that, or you could just have a plugin that's a web view. Yeah. Maybe that stopped them.
I think a while ago when I first started coming here, I told you I downloaded an app called Air Browser, which allows you to do a little bit more than what AirPlay does. It allows you to use your phone as a mouse, and you can go to a browser and you can type in, but it's kind of slow. It's not as fast. Yeah, it's called Air Browser.
Oh. Yeah, I mean that would be a lot of work. Like you could probably write an app that does a bunch of that on your own, but that's on iOS and on macOS. Go into Xcode, you drag WebView into Interface Builder, and like done. I have a web browser.
Oh wow!
So and on Slack, Justin's saying regarding digital signage, I'm working on porting MCP. That's the thing that he wrote that I was talking about for Penn Station 4 to Raspberry Pi 3 from next MacMadmin's console. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I guess Zojo/Real Basic lets you do that. Target these other devices, which is pretty cool. Raspberry Pi 3. What would be the operating system that Linux maybe? Maybe they even. I guess Zojo also targets Linux, which is really cool.
So maybe you get Hackintosh working on Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Hackintosh. Well, that would be impressive. Switch is on. Yeah.
Which I can definitely see happening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see that being an option.
I don't know how far off we are from that, but I can.
Well, they've shown great capability in doing crazy.
Yes.
They're the
binary
insanity. Motorola, PowerPC to Intel.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So Joel must have just found this and added it to Slack. Are there future from the Panic site? I guess are there future plans for a tvOS compatible version of status board? Not this time, and because they don't have iOS frameworks that they use in status board, probably the WebView, namely the WebView.
And it's on Apple. it's not on there.
Right.
There.
Right.
So,
You know,
and think of how many other, things I'd like thrown up there that.
it seems like a crazy thing. Like Apple has this WebKit framework. Why wouldn't they include that? But I think it also, like historically, you go like, oh yeah, this is an Apple thing. Like take these slow, measured steps. I think they're probably in the phase where, okay, version 1, you don't want everyone just writing a web view into everything. You want more native apps.
Yeah.
They'll deal with taking the hit and frustrating people and making people do more work, potentially. Who knows? Maybe a year down the road, we have WebKit, and everyone will cheer.
So the opposite of the iOS. Because the original one was like, only thing, you don't need native apps, just make it all a web view.
Yeah, well,
That didn't work out so well.
yeah. But even with iOS, once we do get the SDKs, like they take small measured steps, and I think this WWDC was a great example of them saying like, okay, we've sort of hit this point of maturity, and we're opening up a lot of this. Like iMessage has an API, and there are all these things where it's like, yep, you get to hook into our services now. They've called it, which lets you, if you're Skype or Google Hangouts or any of these third-party things, hey, you can come up on the lock screen just like we do. Like, that was a bit of a surprise. That was a nice thing to see. So, we'll see where they go. But I kind of go back and forth between Android and iOS, and I alternatively rage quit each month because it's like, this is so much easier on iOS, and then I go back to iOS and I'm like, this is so much better on Android, and I go back to Android, and the one really super nice thing on Android is the Intense system, and you can hook into just about anything and become the application and override the system application. Like on my Android device, I have a replacement clock. And when I say, okay, Google, go set an alarm for tomorrow at 9 a.m., it uses my clock. Like right now, if you tell Siri to set an alarm, I don't care how many clocks you have on your phone, it's using the system one, which can be really frustrating.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe Apple's taking steps towards opening that up a bit.
Why would you want to use any other lock than the beautiful, elegant built-in one?
Yeah.
Here's what I found on the web for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Siri's got some issues. Oh yeah. So actually, speaking of Siri, that was the big thing with Sierra, is that we get Siri on the Mac, and I don't see that being useful at all.
No. Pretty much all of the things that they showed about macOS Sierra in the keynote.
Yes.
Like I went through everything. I was like, these are all things that the security team is going to ask us to turn off
Immediately.
Like all of it was like just like all the automatic syncing and the Siri and I'm like, yeah, nope.
Yeah.
Like possibly useful, but not for.
I'd say it's going to be
enterprise
useful for those edge cases where something is buried in settings, like 5 things deep, or you could just do it with a voice command with Siri. Be like, Siri, turn this off. That's probably going to be the only time I ever use Siri. I don't use Siri on my phone because it's frustrating. 9 times out of 10.
You know how many times I fired Siri? You're fired because there's a lot of things that she does.
The one thing I use Siri for all the time is setting reminders. That's so much faster than going into the Reminders app, typing what I want, and then setting like, oh, when do you want, like, hey Siri, remind me of this thing tomorrow. Boom, 9 a.m. tomorrow, I get the,
And it works like a charm?
That's great, but on my Mac, I feel like I'm almost never working on my Mac where I'm not around a bunch of other people or on the train or in a coffee shop where I'm not going to start speaking
Right,
to my
you
machine.
look like crazy, right?
Yeah, but the other thing about Siri
Got enough people are crazy already.
that they announced is that's going to be very limited to a specific number of categories and what it can accomplish. And again, I think that's an Apple move where they'll open it up over time. But to start with, it's like contacts, calendar. Like there's some very specific things. It's not going to be this all open, hey Siri, go do this thing for me. And when you compare that to something like Amazon's Alexa or Google Now. Like I feel like those are very open. Alexa has this whole API. You can tie anything into it. And, hey Alexa, you don't know how to do this yet, but I'm going to teach you how to turn on the lights. And within a day you can find someone who's written something for your particular lights in your home or some other crazy functionality, and that's really, really nice. And,
Yeah. A friend of ours has an Alexa, but they haven't hooked up too much. It was mostly we just asked it to tell us a joke until we heard all the jokes.
Yeah.
And I knew like 15 or 20, but they were all like 4th grade jokes.
I finally saw one in person, and it looks like a Mac Pro that went on.
Oh, you talking about the tall one? Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So much, like in all the pictures, I just thought it was going to be so much larger. But
No, it's not that big. Yeah.
Kind of like the Google On Hub. When I first saw it in pictures, I was like, oh wow, that looks like a Mac Pro, and then it's really like sort of like an air freshener size.
Yeah.
Like a teeny little thing.
Yeah. You have this yeah. We'll see.
We have one at home that's really good, specifically for like alarms and things like that.
Which one, the Alexa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I use it to wake me up every morning now. You just say, set an alarm for whatever for every weekday, and it just does it. And it's also easy to clear them, like change them around.
Yeah, that actually, when I tell people that, they're surprised. Siri you can say, hey, Siri, delete all my alarms, and it, boom. Because every time you set an alarm with Siri, then like one day you go into the clock and you're like, how do I have 50 alarms? Oh, yeah, because I asked Siri. So a nice way to undo that is, hey, Siri,
delete all my alarms.
Delete all my alarms, and it'll do that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Google thing, whatever. The name
Yeah,
is.
the Google Home, whatever.
I forgot the name.
We're the ones who should.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of it. I was like,
There
isn't one in the conference room.
but it's I mean, I know nothing about the product other than what they announced at the keynote, just to make this clear to the listening audience. But I'm excited mostly because Google knows the AI stuff is always the speech recognition and handling things has always been much better than Amazon or Alexa or Siri.
It's been amazing. I remember even when it first came out. Someone who used to work here from Ireland, Tiernan, still working here. He was in the lunchroom and he was like, "Okay, Google, blah 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 blah," and he got it all right. I'm like, in a crowded room, thick Irish accent. Wow, that's really impressive.
I would remember I was at that one.
Yeah.
And the 8th Floor Cafe is really noisy.
And he also asked it some question that could be interpreted a bunch of ways, and it was like, oh, and it got the intent correct.
Yeah.
Which we were all blown away by that. All right. Well, thanks again, Justin, for your time and explanations, and I really enjoyed hearing about the cabinets and stuff. And yeah, in addition to the cabinets that Justin has built, they're functional, but they look great. They look like vintage cabinets and the artwork on the side. And yeah, hearing the stories about him looking for space in his home for these, and his wife saying, "Yeah, you should take over this whole room and make it."
It's a nice wife.
A pinball or.
I call BS on that part.
No. She's really into it.
All right.
That's awesome. So, you just put it into Slack. My wife is awesome. True story. Yeah, no, that's great. So I have the flip side of it. My wife let me carve out some space at home.
Oh, he put a picture.
For a
Nice.
music studio and some music equipment.
He just put a picture on Slack.
Yes. Yes, he just added a picture to Slack for the people on Slack.
Wow.
And yeah, the artwork on the side is really cool. And just playing those games, what a trip down memory lane. And yeah, thanks again, Justin, for everything you do with Penn State Conference. I had a great time this year. Everyone I spoke to had a great time this year. We have some other conferences coming up. Nexus Admin, I think, is next, late September. Did you have anything to say? How was Mac DevOps? You attended?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's a 2-day conference this year.
It's expanded a little bit.
60, 70 people, something like that. It's good content.
The
All
press
the
game.
videos are up already, so if you didn't
that's
attend,
right,
they're super quick with it. I don't know
Yeah.
what magic they have.
Well, I think he hires a.
Yeah, he has a
Which
local
is-
AV, students do it all, but
Yeah.
they get it quick, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And I didn't look at the ones from this year, but I remember last year he had this really cool, if you stream it from the site that they post to, you can
it's like the
choose
slides and
the slides and the presenter, or you can choose just the slides. You can do it on the fly.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Oh, that's cool. It's a nice system.
Yeah. There are a lot of...
And I know Michael Lynn has some gist on GitHub that lets you download them all. So if you're not into watching them online, you can download them and watch later.
That's weird. Michael Lynn has a gist? That's
Shocking.
Is there a site to go to look at those videos?
Just look up Mac DevOps.
Mac DevOps YVR, MacDevOpsYVR.ca.
There you go. Oh, that's right. And Gretchen from Penn State Conference also presented at
Oh, I got it.
DevOps.
Yeah.
That's right. So she was there, and I was talking to Matt, and he was hoping to get her involved in a little bit more, but she had to fly back and get ready for Penn State.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another conference that's growing a little over time. Matt's doing a kick-ass job. And then MacTech, which I'm involved in. If anyone wants to
Never heard of
speak
it.
or has
New
ideas
conference?
for MacTech, please bring them on. That's in November. And we're usually in the first week of November, but there's some event first week of November this year. We want to steer clear of that, so we're in the third week, I think. I think it falls into the third week. But yeah, MacTechConf.com. If you have speaking ideas, please bring them on. Other than that, no questions going once.
Well,
Yeah.
I wish that Safari can be a little bit like Google Chrome. Like when you're looking for something or you're Googling something, it goes quick. It's like it's pre-cached already. Safari just it takes a little time to get there.
I don't know. I think Safari has that now, and I have to admit, like Safari started out as a great browser, and then it's like version 5-ish when they went to the separate processes. They didn't quite get it right. It was a disaster. But it seems like they transport stuff. Oh, they have transport, yeah. But I think they've gotten a lot of that fixed. Safari is a nice browser again. Yes. I've been happy with it. And this is another one where I sort of like go back and forth. Like, oh, Chrome does this really well. Oh, Safari does this really well. Like, I use both. They're both good browsers. Chrome is really good. It does a number of things to try to make your experience a lot faster. And it has built-in Flash support, so you're not worried about updating it and security issues and things like that. So like, I never load Flash onto my own system. I just use Chrome for anything that still requires Flash. It's
our rule.
It's a bit disheartening. Like you go to a site, it's like this requires Flash.
Yeah.
So, 90% of the sites, I just go, yeah,
bye.
I don't need it. Then.
Yep.
Yeah, so
I
Chrome and I don't know, earlier this year, and Safari just recently announced that
Yes.
they're going to switch to not even saying that they have Flash. Even if they have Flash, don't even say they have Flash.
That is fantastic.
And not just saying we have Flash, but it's disabled, so that'll be much better. Which is what I want. I'd like, back when Chrome started having the click to play, I wanted like, just pretend you don't have it.
Right, so the people running the site think you don't have it at all, and hopefully that will send them some message like, hey, I should get off Flash. That's really what we want. But yeah, I agree, and like it's kind of nice. I don't want to call them browser wars, but they definitely get influenced by each other and sort of leapfrog each other every release. So it's nice to see. It's good that they sort of take features from each other over time. All right, with that, thanks again, everybody, and sign off. Cameras over here this time. See you next month.